Today we're gonna have an epic battle between the top 5 image editing models, and we're gonna have 3 rounds of cage fight where these models are gonna compete for the top spot. So the first round is gonna test consistency of an image. So I'm gonna provide the background that you see in this video, and I'm gonna ask these models to keep everything as is and just add one additional artwork somewhere here. The second round is to check how well these models do on text editing, and we're gonna provide an image with some text written and ask these models to modify the text to what we want. And third round is going to combine consistency along with text editing. So I'm going to provide image of myself and ask for it to generate a YouTube thumbnail. And we're going to ask for it to write some text, and we'll see if it is going to preserve how I look, maybe with a slight facial expression change. And the models that we're going to be testing are ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, Flux, and the latest that came out from Alibaba, that is Qwen 3 Image Edit. So let's get started. Starting with the first round, we're going to test how well this image of the background is going to be preserved by these models, and we're going to ask them to add an artwork here of Mona Lisa. The key thing is to test consistency of how well it preserves all of the details in this room, especially some of the smaller nuances. And the test is going to be pretty much the same, where I'm going to provide the same image and the same prompt to all of these models. So let's see who wins this round. So we're going to start with ChatGPT, and here is the result. It took probably about 30 to 60 seconds or so. That's the usual time frame that ChatGPT image edit work. And after that, it was able to add the artwork as we wanted it to be. And this is quite nice. It understood the assignment that it is supposed to add where the red circle was. And it was able to preserve the details quite well, to be honest. Just looking at the details here of reflection of light, as well as some of the shadows, seems like it was able to capture quite well. The artwork itself is probably fine. I would say it could have been a little better, but then just looking at everything else, this is quite nice. Now going to the Gemini image edit, I wasn't sure which one to use. There's the AI Studio and then there is the Gemini option. So I thought I'll just use both of them to see the results. And this particular case, it did not understand the assignment properly. The red circle is still there. It added the artwork, which is fine, but then if we look at rest of the image quality, it was not able to preserve how it's supposed to be. And also the artwork itself, it doesn't look much like Mona Lisa. To be honest, looks a little bit like Putin. But anyways, now same thing using Gemini, it just did fine. None of the details were preserved as we wanted, and the red circle is there, but it added the artwork and it just added some random dude in there. So probably not the best with any of the Gemini image edits. Though I'm curious if one were to use the paid version, if it changes something. Feel free to give it a try if you have a paid plan, and let me know if you get any better results. Now going to Grok, this is also on the free plan. Did the image edits, seems like it missed the red circle again, and rest of the edit is also not the best. So there are 2 variations that it worked on. Both of them are just okay. Could have done a lot better. Now next is the Flux context, and this is the chat version available from Replicate, and this actually did quite well, to be honest. If you look at some of the finer details here of the reflection of light and again the shadows, all of that is preserved well. I kept some of these wires intentionally in the image just to see how well it does, and it seems like it was able to pick on those and then preserve it as is. The artwork itself is also quite nice, so overall I would say very good job. And the last one is Qwen, and Qwen also did quite well. It was able to preserve some of the details here, and also the artwork was in the right spot. It understood the assignment to replace the red circle with the artwork. So all of that is quite nice. Now at a macro level, these are pretty good. When we zoom in after downloading the image, some of these are a bit distorted. It's probably not going to be the best HD quality. If you're going to be using these images for some social media purposes, then probably these are going to be pretty good. Now I zoomed in a little bit on all 3 of these images, and I noticed that Qwen had some issue keeping some of the patterns. So maybe it could have done a little better, but then looking at what ChatGPT provided, provided and the response from Flux context, these are very good. So I would have said this is a tie between ChatGPT and Flux, but then I realized the artwork itself, ChatGPT missed a little bit on the artwork. I'm gonna go to the original version of Mona Lisa, and if we were to compare this with what ChatGPT generated and what the Flux model did, I would say probably Flux is the winner. Now there might be some details that I'm missing. Let me know in comments what you think, if there was something else that I missed. In round 2, we want to see how well text editing works. I'm going to provide this image here of the book, and I want these models to change it to a certain text. Now the goal here is to modify the book cover text to say how many R's are in strawberry, and we are going to introduce a few additional R's here. So I'm going to make it 3 R's at the beginning and then 4 at the end, and let's see how well these models do. All right, so the results are in, and let's see what happened. So first one is ChatGPT. Seems like it was able to understand the task. It modified the text, but then it missed out on some of the words. So it was not able to spell in properly, as well as strawberry. The modified version did not work. We're gonna say it could have done better. Next is Gemini. It seems like it made quite some errors, completely missed R's, and it tried writing in a different font or so. Again, not the best. Looking at Grok, it just decided to write some random gibberish, so probably not what we wanted. Now Flux understood the task as well, but again, some errors as in other cases. Last is Quen. It also understood the task, but it was not able to properly edit. Seems like this is probably one of the closest to what we wanted. It's just that the number of R's are different. I wonder, is it because of the width of the word itself? They're trying to fit that word in, but because it's longer, then it's not able to fit in. So it's just deciding to eat some of those R's. Probably that's the case. To be honest, all of them failed the test, but I'll leave it up to you to decide who is the winner for this round. Let's get to the third and final round. In this round, I'm gonna take an image of myself. I'm gonna ask for these models to generate a YouTube thumbnail for me. So it's gonna use my face, but it's gonna change the expression a little bit and also add some text with it to see how well the text generation works. So this might be the hardest of all. There is some text editing involved and also some facial expression change. And it's got to preserve all the details in the room as well as my facial structure. So the prompt in this case is going to be to generate a YouTube thumbnail. We are going to provide the aspect ratio, and we can keep PNG, or probably we could just take that out. We can let models decide whatever they generate, but we just want this aspect ratio. And then we are asking for facial expression change. So we want it to be shocking facial expression, and then we want this text to be written on the image. So let's spin the wheel. All right, so the results are in. Starting with ChatGPT, looking at the image generated, it actually got the text right, so that's one good thing. But then the image itself, there's something off with the eyes section, and that could have been better. Overall, if I were to just zoom out, it looks very similar to me, but then just that portion is where I would think could have done better. Now going on to Gemini, seems like the text was done quite well, but then same thing, the image and the expressions is similar, but definitely not me. Now going on to Grok, seems like it was able to get the text to some extent properly, but then it made some errors. And in terms of the image, it seems like it just put some random dude in there. It's not me for sure. And both versions definitely needs a lot of editing and improvement. Now, similar to ChatGPT, Flux Context was also able to get things close, but then the image itself seems like it was able to get the top portion, but there is something off with the bottom portion, so it looks a bit different. And last is Quen, same thing. It was able to get the text right, but then the person here, it is quite different than how I look. And this was on purpose. I wanted to use my image compared to generic or a celebrity or known figure, because probably a famous person would be in the training data and these models probably have seen that person. Now, since facial expressions and image text editing was too much for these models, I thought let's make it easy for them in this bonus round. where we are just going to ask for it to add text and make it for YouTube. We're going to keep the facial expression same. So instead of asking to change facial expression, I'm just going to say just place me on the left side, and on the right side add the text. So it's basically no changes in facial expression, because ChatGPT previously seemed to get almost everything right, just a little bit off with the facial expression. So that's where I ran this test. With the new results, it seems like ChatGPT was quite off. It understood the task, it wrote the text properly, but facial expressions and the facial structure is quite different. Now, same thing with Gemini. It just brought in some random Indian person in here. Now, Grok seems to have done the task a little better than last time. The text is almost correct, a little bit off on the W here, and the facial structure overall looks fine. It seems like the second image is a little better with the text, but the facial structure is definitely a bit off. Similar was the case with Quen, where it was able to get the text right, but then the facial structure was quite off. But the most surprising one was the Flux context, and I was quite surprised. This one did amazing. It actually understood the task, it wrote the text correctly, it also got the facial structure properly, understood that it needed my image in there without any edits, and it is definitely the clear winner of this bonus round. And even looking at the previous round, it almost got the facial structure correctly, it's just that it was off on the text. Now with this bonus round, it seems like it was able to just nail it. So in conclusion, after 3 rounds of battle and a bonus round, we are going to decide who is the winner. So going back to round 1, we saw that ChatGPT did quite well, and same was the case with Flux Context and also Quen 3. But then zooming in on some of the features, we realized that Flux Context was the winner. Now round 2 with the text editing, we noticed that pretty much all of the models failed with this task. So maybe this is an area where the model providers could work and make them better. Now round 3, the facial structure was not maintained properly, and overall ChatGPT came the closest, and probably next best was Flux Context. But then in the bonus round, we saw that Flux Context did absolutely amazing. So overall, I am quite impressed by the quality of results from Flux Context. It works quite fast compared to ChatGPT. It does quite well except for the text editing. So I'm gonna choose Flux Context as the winner of this battle. Let me know if you noticed something that I might have missed in the images, and also if there's any other model that you would like to add to this battle.